I should have read the fine print of the marriage contract, especially the part about falling in love with a man who's dying. Standing in his hospital room now, watching Alexander Kane fight for each breath, I realized the biggest lie wasn't about his terminal illness. It was believing I could keep my heart out of this deal. 6 months ago, I thought I was saving my family's company. I never imagined I'd be desperately trying to save the only man I've ever truly loved. The Kane Industries boardroom stretched before me like a battlefield of chrome and glass, 42 floors above Manhattan. I'd rehearsed this moment 100 times, the contract marriage proposal that would save Martinez Law from bankruptcy. What I hadn't prepared for was Alexander Kane himself. He stood with his back to me, silhouetted against floor-to-ceiling windows, speaking in low tones on the phone. "Tell them the deal proceeds as planned." His voice carried an authority that made my spine straighten involuntarily. When he turned, our eyes met, and the rehearsed speech died on my lips. Alexander Kane wasn't what I expected. The financial magazines captured his sharp jawline and aristocratic features, but they missed the restless energy beneath his polished surface. His Martinez. My name on his lips sounded like a verdict. He moved toward me with predatory grace. "You're younger than I expected for someone proposing such an unconventional merger. And you're exactly as intimidating as advertised, Mr. Kane." The words escaped before I could stop them. He circled the conference table, maintaining eye contact. Most people don't admit to being intimidated. Most people aren't about to propose a fake marriage to save their family legacy. Alexander stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that made my pulse quicken. "Tell me, Miss Martinez, do you always gamble everything on a single play?" "Only when I'm certain I'll win." His laugh was unexpected, rich and genuine. "Then we already have something in common." His eyes dropped to my red blazer. Red. Bold choice for a negotiation. I believe in making intentions clear from the start. As do I. So let me be clear. I need this marriage to secure the Hastings merger. You need it to save your father's firm. But if we do this, I have rules. So do I. For a moment, the air between us crackled with something that had nothing to do with business. "Shall we discuss terms?" He gestured to the chairs, but remained standing. 1 year of marriage. Public appearances as required. Separate living quarters. No physical intimacy. No physical intimacy? He leaned against the table's edge, amusement dancing in his eyes. "How do you propose we convince the board we're madly in love?" "Acting, Mr. Kane. Chemistry can't be faked, Miss Martinez. Stand up." I rose slowly, hyper-aware of how he towered over me. Alexander stepped into my personal space, his hand settling lightly on my waist, the heat burning through my blazer. "Your pupils dilate when I touch you," he observed clinically, though his own breathing had changed. His thumb brushed against my throat. "And you lean in rather than pull away. You're hardly unaffected yourself. Your hand is trembling." He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face. "I think we can make this believable. Because we're good actors? Because we're not acting as much as we'd like to pretend. The attraction is inconvenient, but undeniable. 1 year, Miss Martinez. Think you can pretend to love me for 1 year without actually falling? The question, Mr. Kane, is whether you can do the same." We stood there, two opponents who just recognized the game was far more dangerous than anticipated. The contract was signed within the hour, but we both knew we'd agreed to something beyond legal terms. 3 weeks into our arrangement, I stood in Alexander's penthouse, staring at the Manhattan skyline while hiding my phone from view. Another call from Dad's accountant, another crisis I couldn't mention. Martinez Law is 48 hours from bankruptcy proceedings, the voice whispered urgently. If this merger doesn't go through, it will, I cut him off, watching Alexander's reflection as he entered. Handle what you can, I'll take care of the rest. Alexander approached with 2 glasses of wine. He looked exhausted, though he'd never admit it. Another crisis at the firm? He asked, too perceptive for comfort. Just routine matters. The lie came easily. I'd become an expert at hiding the truth, that my father's gambling debts had destroyed everything, that our family home was in foreclosure, that this fake marriage was literally my last card to play. We have dinner with the board tomorrow. My mother will be there. Victoria Kane doesn't like me. Victoria Kane doesn't like anyone who might distract me from the company. He loosened his tie, a gesture I'd learned meant stress. She's particularly suspicious of beautiful women who appear conveniently when billion-dollar mergers are at stake. I watched him sink into the sofa, noting the way he pressed his hand briefly against his temple. Headache? It's nothing, but his hand trembled slightly. Just haven't been sleeping well. Another lie. I'd heard him on the phone with Dr. Morrison twice this week, appointments he'd mysteriously canceled. I'd seen prescription bottles hidden behind books in his study. But I couldn't call him on his secrets without revealing my own. Meanwhile, 3 doors down, Alexander stood in his bathroom, gripping the marble counter as a wave of dizziness passed. The diagnosis had come 6 months ago. Aggressive, terminal, maybe a year if he was lucky. The experimental treatment in Switzerland was his only shot, but he needed the Hastings merger to secure his legacy first. No one could know, especially not the beautiful, complicated woman living in his home. The medication side effects were getting harder to hide, but Isabella couldn't know. She'd leave, out of pity or fear or simple self-preservation. And somehow, the thought of her leaving had become unbearable. Victoria Kane's study reeked of old money and older grudges the next day. My investigators are thorough, Miss Martinez. She slid a folder across the mahogany desk. Martinez Law has been struggling for 2 years. Your father's gambling problem is well documented. You're 1 missed payment away from losing everything. And I want to know what game you're playing with my son. The same game you asked him to play, a marriage that secures the Hastings merger. Victoria's smile was sharp as winter. I suggested he find a suitable wife. I didn't expect him to choose someone desperate enough to do anything for money, including pretending to love your son. Tell me, Mrs. Kane, what kind of mother pushes her son into a fake marriage? The kind who knows he's running out of time. The words hung between us, loaded with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Stay away from my son, emotionally speaking. Finish the year, take your money, save your firm. But if you let him fall in love with you, if you complicate his life right now, I will destroy everything you hold dear. And if I'm falling in love with him too, then you're even more foolish than I thought. Alexander doesn't do permanent. He can't. That evening, Marcus cornered me at the office with society photos. You're falling for your mark, Bella. There are rumors about Alexander's health, some saying he's been seen at Presbyterian's oncology ward. That's gossip, I said, but my blood chilled. Alone in my room, I opened my laptop to find an email from an unknown sender. Ask him about Switzerland. The Hastings Charity Gala was our first major test. 500 of New York's elite watching our every move. Alexander's hand hadn't left my back all evening, a constant warm pressure that was driving me insane. Dance with me, he murmured against my ear as the orchestra began a slow waltz. Time to give them a show. On the dance floor, he pulled me closer than necessary. I could feel his heartbeat through his tuxedo, rapid and unsteady. You're nervous, I observed. Not nervous, distracted. By you in that dress. His honesty caught me off guard. The deep emerald gown had been his choice. The way you shiver when I touch you feels real. The way your breath catches when I say your name, Isabella, that's not acting. I know we have rules. His voice was rough velvet. Boundaries, contracts. But right now, with everyone watching, I need to kiss you. And I don't think it's for them anymore. The music swelled around us. Cameras flashed. His hand cupped my face. Tell me to stop. I can't, because I don't want you to. Time slowed as he lowered his head. The first brush of his lips was tentative, asking permission. Then I sighed against his mouth, and something snapped. His arm wrapped around my waist, lifting me slightly, deepening the kiss until I forgot we were performing. My hands tangled in his hair. The world dissolved. No gala, no audience, no contract. Just Alexander's mouth on mine, setting me on fire. When we finally broke apart, the ballroom erupted in applause. But Alexander's eyes held mine, dark with desire and genuine surprise. That was dangerously real, he said, pressing his forehead to mine. William Hastings himself approached, clapping Alexander on the shoulder. Now that's a man in love. The merger's as good as signed, my boy. But as Alexander smiled and shook hands, I saw his other hand trembling. Something was wrong. His skin had gone pale beneath his tan. Excuse us, I intervened smoothly, guiding Alexander to a private balcony where he immediately gripped the railing, knuckles white. What's wrong? Nothing, just need air. But he was sweating despite the cool night. He turned, and for a moment, his mask slipped completely. I saw fear in his eyes, raw, desperate fear. I can't do this, Isabella. This, us, that kiss. I can't pretend anymore, but I can't tell you the truth either. Why not? Because when you know, you'll leave, and I've become selfish enough to want to keep you as long as possible. Victoria Kane waited in Alexander's study when we arrived home. The performance tonight was quite convincing, too convincing. Isabella, a word alone. When Alexander left, Victoria produced an iPad showing my father at a poker table in Atlantic City, dated yesterday. He lost another 100,000, money that could destroy not just your firm, but your entire family. Keep it professional, or I call in every debt your father owes. You're threatening me? I'm protecting Alexander. He doesn't have time for distractions. She left me standing there, shaking. When I finally went upstairs, Alexander was waiting. You threatened you, he said, reading my face. She's right. We're getting too involved. That kiss tonight, we got carried away. Carried away? Is that what you're calling it? He moved closer, backing me against the wall. Tell me you didn't feel anything when we kissed. I can't. Then why? Because feeling something and acting on it are different things. We agreed to terms. No emotional involvement. Those terms were made before I knew you, before you walked into my life and made me want things I'd given up on. A future, a real future, with someone who challenges me, who makes me laugh, who kisses me like the world is ending. I'm tired. Good night, Alexander. I closed my bedroom door on his stricken face. My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Switzerland Clinic, November appointment. Ask yourself why. 3 weeks of polite distance had turned Alexander's penthouse into an emotional battlefield. Every shared meal was torture. Every accidental brush of fingers was fire. I found him in his study at 3 a.m., papers scattered across his desk, looking more exhausted than I'd ever seen him. You should be sleeping, I said from the doorway. So should you, he responded without looking up. But here we are, two insomniacs pretending the other doesn't exist. I can't do this anymore, Isabella. The words burst from him as he stood abruptly, swaying slightly. This cold politeness, this professional distance, it's killing me faster than... He stopped himself. Then what? I pressed. But instead of answering, he crossed the room in 3 strides, backing me against the doorframe. "I've tried to respect your wishes, tried to maintain boundaries." His voice was rough with suppressed emotion. "But every night, I lie awake thinking about that kiss. Tell me you don't think about it too. I'm done pretending I don't want you, Isabella. Your mother," I started, but he cut me off. "My mother doesn't control me." Then he kissed me, desperate and demanding. Every wall I'd built crumbled instantly. "This is a mistake," I gasped when he kissed down my neck. The only mistake was denying this for 3 weeks. He lifted me easily, carrying me to his bedroom. "I need you, Isabella. Not for the merger, not for the show. I need you." We made love with 3 weeks of suppressed desire exploding between us. Afterward, we lay tangled together, his arm tight around me like he was afraid I'd disappear. "It changes everything," he said, kissing my forehead. "I want real, Isabella, not pretense, real." "For how long?" the question slipped out. "For as long as we have," he said quietly, strange phrasing that I was too content to analyze. "I love you, Isabella." The declaration hung between us, beautiful and terrifying. "You don't have to say it back. Just stay. Tonight, just stay." I kissed him instead of answering, pouring everything I couldn't say into the contact. Over the following weeks, I cataloged Alexander's secrets like evidence. Pills at every meal, the way he'd grip furniture against dizziness, weight loss he blamed on stress. "You're losing weight," I mentioned one morning. "Just stress from the merger," he deflected, but his suits hung looser each week. The unknown number kept sending messages. "Geneva Clinic, experimental trial, 6 months if untreated. He's running out of time." I started my own investigation. Medical journals about experimental treatments in Switzerland, oncology protocols. Each piece of information was another knife to my heart. That night, I found Alexander on the bathroom floor, trying to hide a nosebleed. "It's nothing," he insisted, but his hands shook. "How long have you been sick?" The question escaped before I could stop it. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said firmly, but his eyes betrayed panic. "The pills, Alexander, the appointments with Dr. Morrison, the weight loss, Switzerland, how long?" Instead, he kissed me desperately. "Please, not yet. I'm not ready for this to end yet." "What's going to end?" "Everything. But not tonight. Please, Isabella, just give me tonight." The confrontation came the morning of the final Hastings negotiation. I'd found his medical records hidden in a locked drawer. Stage 3 pancreatic cancer. 6 months since diagnosis. Experimental treatment with a 20% success rate. The papers trembled in my hands. "You went through my things?" Alexander stood frozen in the doorway, dressed for the meeting, looking like death in an Armani suit. "You're dying and you didn't tell me?" What was I supposed to say? "Hi, I need a fake wife for a year. By the way, I might not survive it." "You let me fall in love with you." The papers scattered as I threw them at him. "You knew you were dying and you let me—" "Because I'm selfish," he shouted back. "Because for the first time in my life, I wanted something more than success. I wanted to know what it felt like to be loved, really loved, before you died? How romantic. Use me for your bucket list, then leave me destroyed?" "Get out," I said coldly. "The merger's in 2 hours," he said quietly, defeated. "I'll be there, I'll play your perfect fiancé one last time. But after that, we're done." The Hastings merger meeting was a masterclass in deception. Alexander and I sat side by side in the boardroom, our hands intertwined on the table, the picture of a power couple in love. No one could see how his thumb trembled against mine, or how my nails dug crescents into his palm. William Hastings beamed at us. "Before we sign, I must say, Alexander, seeing you with Isabella these past months has convinced me more than any financial projection. A man who can find love like this is a man I trust with my company's future." The irony tasted like poison. Alexander's grip tightened as he responded smoothly about how I had changed his perspective on everything. Every word was true. Every word was a knife. The contracts were being passed around when it happened. Alexander reached for his pen, and suddenly his hand seized. The pen clattered to the table as his whole body went rigid. Alexander? I turned to him, forgetting our fight in instant panic. His eyes had rolled back, his body convulsing. "Call 911, someone shouted as Alexander collapsed. I dropped to my knees beside him, cradling his head as his body shook violently. "Please, please, please," I whispered, not caring who saw my tears. At the hospital, Victoria found me in the waiting room. The doctors need family medical history. I told them everything. About the cancer, stage 3 pancreatic, diagnosed 7 months ago. The experimental treatment in Switzerland that he's been refusing because he wanted to finish this merger first. Her voice broke. "He's been dying since before he met you, Isabella. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I'm the one who suggested the marriage arrangement. I thought if he had something to live for, someone to fight for, he might. But he'd already decided to refuse treatment, said he wanted to go on his own terms. So I was what? A reason to fight? You were the first time I ever saw my son choose life over work. These past months with you, he's been different, happier. He started considering the treatment. That's why he couldn't tell you. He was terrified you'd stay out of pity." The doctor emerged then, his face grave. "Mr. Kane is stable, but the cancer has progressed. The seizure was caused by a metastasis to the brain. Without immediate treatment, we're looking at weeks, not months." "He's agreed to treatment?" I asked, hope flaring. "No, he's refusing all intervention except pain management." I was already running to room 1247. Alexander lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Go away, Isabella." "How dare you refuse treatment? It's my choice." "No, you lost the right to make that choice alone when you made me love you." I moved closer to the bed. "When you pursued me, seduced me, made me believe in a future you knew was a lie. I never meant for you to find out like this. You never meant for me to find out at all. You were going to what? Disappear after the merger? Let me think you'd abandoned me. It would have been cleaner, less painful. For who?" I grabbed his hand, holding it despite his attempt to pull away. "Because there is no version of losing you that doesn't destroy me. At least if you fight, if you try the treatment, there's hope. 20% success rate, 20% chance of 6 more months of agony before dying anyway, 20% chance of living, 20% chance of us having a real future. There is no us, Isabella. There never was. It was a business arrangement that got out of hand." I slapped him. The sound echoed in the sterile room. "Don't you dare diminish what we have to make this easier. You love me. You said you love me. I do love you. That's why I'm letting you go. Walk away. Find someone who can give you forever. I don't want forever with someone else. I want whatever time we have with you. Please, Alexander, please try. For me, for us. And when it fails, when you've watched me deteriorate, when I die anyway, then at least we'll have fought, together." I climbed onto the bed beside him. "Please don't give up. Not now." He pulled me against him, his body shaking with suppressed sobs. "I'm scared, Isabella. I'm so fucking scared." "I know, baby, but you don't have to be scared alone anymore." Alexander finally agreed to treatment. The merger fell apart within hours. Kane Industries' stock plummeted 30%. The board voted to remove Alexander as CEO. My phone exploded with messages. "Marcus, the merger's dead. We're finished." My father, "The creditors are calling." "You should go handle your family situation," Alexander said weakly. "My family's problems will still be there tomorrow. You might not be. The treatment starts tomorrow. The side effects will be brutal. You'll be alive. That's all that matters. Victoria entered then. Isabella, without the merger money, your family. We'll figure it out. Either way, I'm not leaving. She pulled out a checkbook. How much to save your family? $3 million, I said quietly. That covers the debts and saves the firm. Victoria wrote the check without hesitation. Consider it a wedding gift. We're not actually married. No, but you will be. If you survive this, you're marrying this woman properly. No contracts, no arrangements. Real. The experimental treatment in Switzerland was our Hail Mary. After 2 weeks of brutal chemotherapy that left him barely recognizable, Alexander made a decision that shattered me. You need to go back to New York, he said one morning, his voice barely a whisper. I can't fight this if I'm worried about you watching me fall apart. I need to know you're living, not sitting in hospital rooms. This is living. Being with you is living. No, this is dying, and I won't let my dying consume your living. Go home. Save your firm. When I'm better, if I'm better, I'll come find you. The doctors privately told me he was right. The stress of having me there was impacting his recovery. So I left. I kissed his forehead, whispered that I loved him, and flew back to New York with Victoria's check and a heart so broken I could barely breathe. I threw myself into saving Martinez Law. The $3 million covered the immediate debts, but rebuilding took everything I had. 18-hour days became my norm. If I worked hard enough, I couldn't think about Alexander in a Swiss hospital bed, fighting for breaths that might not come. 6 weeks passed. The firm stabilized. We even landed 2 new major clients. But success felt hollow. Then Victoria called at 2 a.m. The treatment isn't working as hoped. You should know, in case you want to say goodbye. I was on a plane within 3 hours. The man in the Swiss hospital bed wasn't Alexander. Couldn't be. This skeletal figure, attached to a dozen machines, this couldn't be the powerful CEO who'd backed me against boardroom doors. You came, his voice was barely audible. You didn't really think I'd stay away? Stubborn man, trying to die without me. Trying to live, actually, just not doing a very good job. The treatment, it's not working like they hoped. Dr. Morrison entered with test results. The tumors have stopped growing, but they're not shrinking. There's one more option, an experimental immunotherapy. It's aggressive, high risk. What's the success rate? Alexander asked. Of the 12 who've tried it, 3 achieved complete remission. 4 died from the treatment itself. 25% chance of cure, 33% chance of dying faster. They're better than 0% if you do nothing, I said. Do it, Alexander and I said simultaneously. I've already lost everything else, Alexander said quietly. The company, the merger, my strength. The only thing I have left worth fighting for is the possibility of a future with Isabella. After Morrison left, I climbed carefully into the bed beside Alexander. You didn't lose me. You could never lose me. I was going to propose. Before the seizure at the meeting, I had the ring in my pocket, was going to make it real in front of everyone. Ask me now. What? Ask me now. No boardroom, no audience, no pretense, just us and the truth. His eyes filled with tears. Isabella Martinez, will you marry me? No contracts, no arrangements, no time limits. Just, will you choose me, even knowing everything? Yes, no hesitation. Yes, Alexander, in sickness and health, for whatever time we get. Victoria found us there hours later and placed a small velvet box on the bedside table. Your grandmother's ring. I've been carrying it since the merger meeting, hoping. 3 months of immunotherapy had taken Alexander to hell and back. I'd moved to Switzerland, spending every allowed moment by his side. The treatment was brutal beyond description, but slowly, impossibly, it began working. "The tumors are shrinking," Dr. Morrison announced on week 12, barely containing his excitement. "Not just stable, actually shrinking. This is beyond our best projections." During those long months, we'd stripped away every pretense. I'd seen him at his absolute worst. He'd seen me, exhausted, terrified, angry at God and fate and cancer itself. And somehow, through it all, our love had only grown stronger. "I need to tell you something," I said one evening, "about why I really agreed to the arrangement. My father didn't just have gambling debts. He'd embezzled from client accounts. I was trying to keep him out of prison." Alexander's hand found mine. "And did you? Your mother's $3 million covered it. Every penny has been repaid. My father's in treatment now. We both came into this with hidden agendas," he said. "Mine was preserving my legacy before dying. Yours was saving your family from destruction. Look at us now. My legacy is in ruins, your family's safe, and somehow we found something neither of us was looking for. Love? Truth. Love without conditions or contracts or lies. Just truth." By month 4, the impossible had happened. The scans came back clean. Not just improved, clean. No detectable cancer cells. Dr. Morrison actually cried when he delivered the news. "This is unprecedented. Complete remission after stage 3 pancreatic cancer with brain metastasis. We're writing medical journals about this." Alexander was still weak, but he was alive. Genuinely, miraculously alive. "I need to return to New York," he said one morning as we walked slowly through the clinic gardens. "Face what's left of my company. I don't care about the company anymore. I spent my whole life building that empire, and for what? It didn't save me. You did. You mattered. So what will you do? Start over. Build something new. Something ours. Marry me, Isabella. Not eventually. Now. Tomorrow. Before we return to New York." "Alexander, you can barely walk a quarter mile." "I can stand long enough to say I do. I want to return to New York as your husband, real husband, not contracted partner." Victoria flew in for the ceremony, a simple affair in the hospital chapel with Dr. Morrison and 3 nurses as witnesses. Alexander stood on shaky legs in a suit that hung loose on his still thin frame, but his eyes were bright and clear. "I, Isabella Martinez, take you, Alexander Kane, knowing all your truths, having seen all your struggles, choosing you not in spite of them, but because of how you faced them," I said in my vows. When we kissed as husband and wife, legally and truly, the small audience applauded. But all I could hear was Alexander whispering, "We actually did it. We survived." Victoria had been busy in our absence. I've been buying Kane Industries stock. I now own 43%, enough to force a board vote on reinstating Alexander as CEO, if he wants it. I want to build something new, a complete restructuring of Kane Industries, medical research, support systems for families facing terminal illness, real help, not just tax write-offs. "The Kane Martinez Foundation for Critical Care," I suggested. "Perfect. We'll build it together. No contracts needed." Our return to New York wasn't the quiet arrival we'd planned. Someone had leaked our story to the press. Photographers swarmed JFK Airport. At the exit, Alexander suddenly stopped, turning to face the cameras. "You want to know our story? Fine. I was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 6 months to live. I entered a marriage contract with Isabella to secure a merger. It was supposed to be fake. Instead, she saved my life, literally. When I was ready to die, she fought for me. This woman beside me faced down death itself and won." He directed the driver to a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, producing keys I'd never seen before. "What is this? I bought it 6 months ago, during treatment, when I thought I was dying. I wanted you to have somewhere that wasn't connected to our lies. But now I'm hoping it can be ours, our real home." The living room had been set up for a party. Victoria was there, along with Marcus, my family, Dr. Morrison, who'd flown in, and surprisingly, William Hastings. "I'm here to sign the merger papers," Hastings said, "the real ones this time. Any man who fights death for love deserves a second chance at everything." On the private terrace, Manhattan sparkled before us. Alexander got down on one knee. "I know we're already married, but I realized I never properly proposed. Not without dying, not without contracts. So, Isabella Martinez Kane, will you marry me again? Renew our vows without lies between us?" "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped a stunning sapphire ring on my finger, standing to kiss me as our guests cheered from inside. "I have one more surprise. The foundation is already funded. 50 million from the Hastings merger, another 50 from liquidating my unnecessary assets. The first recipient has already been selected. A young father with the same diagnosis I had. This is what you were meant to do. Not cold mergers, but changing lives. We were meant to do none of this exists without you. You didn't just save my life, Isabella. You gave it meaning." 1 year later, I stood in the same boardroom where everything had begun, but nothing was the same. The cold chrome and glass had been warmed with plants and photos, images from our foundation's success stories. Alexander stood beside me, healthy and strong, presenting our quarterly report. 73 patients fully funded this quarter, 42 in complete remission. Our success rate is triple the national average because we're not just treating disease, we're treating people, families, entire support systems. The renewal ceremony took place exactly 2 years after our first meeting, in the Brownstones garden. This time, Alexander stood strong and healthy. 2 years ago, Alexander began his vows. I walked into a boardroom ready to die. Isabella taught me that true desperation is fighting for someone else's life harder than your own. She looked at death and said, "Not today." Alexander Kane taught me that strength isn't about standing alone. I gave mine. It's about being brave enough to fall apart in someone's arms. Love isn't a contract you sign, but a choice you make daily. As we kissed, snow began to fall. Perfect, soft snow that makes New York magical. Later, Alexander pulled me close. Dr. Morrison called. "We're officially 5 years cancer-free as of today." "It means we won," I said, kissing him deeply. "All of them. The cancer odds, the arrangement odds, the falling in love odds." Our story had started with deception and contracts. It traveled through hospital rooms and boardrooms, through death's shadow. But it ended in truth, in choice, in love that survived everything. The contract that brought us together had expired long ago, but the love it accidentally created, that was permanent. No signatures required.
Your heart knows the way. Subscribe and follow the beauty.